Hi friends, welcome to Cracku's video series. I'm Sayali Kale. I'm one of the co-founders of Cracku and an alumna of IIM. In today's video, we'll be looking at how to crack personal interview. So we'll be doing quite a few videos on this. In this particular video, we'll basically look at how you should answer the question, tell me about yourself. So let's get started. So this generally is the first question that is asked. It might just happen that they don't give you the chance to introduce yourself, but the chance of that happening is low. Mostly they'll at least give you the chance to introduce yourself by saying that tell me about yourself or introduce yourself. So it's because this is the first impression that you're going to be making on the panelist, it's very important that you prepare in writing for this. This is going to be the start of how your interview starts, and it may make or break your interview as such. So it's very important to set the tone for your interview, to set the direction of your interview through your tell me about yourself. So essentially a lot of people say, okay, you set the direction or the course of your interview by directing the panelists in a particular direction. But most IIM panelists, most IIM professors are too smart to fall into those kind of traps. However, it's very important that you at least have a sense of which direction you would actually want the panelists to go in. And that's basically, if you think of yourself, think of what are your strengths, what are your strength areas, what are your weak areas. And once you identify, okay, this is where I would like the interview to go, that is where you try to direct the attention of the interviewer. He might pick that bait, he might not. But at least it's important to actually put that out, because you should at least try to direct it in a particular way. Things might not go as directed. They might completely ignore the words that you're putting out and just ask you something random. But it's more likely than not that they pick up on things that you are saying during the interview. And this starts with tell me about yourself. So it's very, very important to prepare in writing. Now when I say prepare in writing, how do you start? Most of the students would go immediately blank if they have to say tell me about yourself. Either you would ramble on or you would not know what to say. So the way you can go about doing this is that just write about everything about yourself, from your schooling, so all your acads, then your work experience, all the co-curricular activities, and your extracurricular activities. So this is something, this is generally the format that a resume follows. You don't have to say your entire resume to the panelists, but if you have, before you start actually writing, have all of these things in front of you. So this is kind of the input material for your tell me about yourself. What I would suggest, this is kind of important, before you actually do this, it might be useful if you sit down with all your certificates so that you make a master list of all the things that you have done over your schooling, through your college, what you did in your work, what were the roles that you did. If you sit down with your all the certificates and you list them down, and you kind of create a master CV as such, if you have all of those points in front of you, then it's easier to distill that into a tell me about yourself than to start from scratch. So that's how you start off by thinking of everything about you. So if you get all of that on paper, then it's easier to start from that starting point than to start from a blank page as such. So always understand that you are not going to come to the perfect answer for this in the first go. You're going to write a lengthy answer, then you're going to write a crisper version of it, and you're going to go through several iterations till you get the right answer to this particular question. Also make sure that you have some people whom you can seek feedback about on this particular So when you write down the answer, show it to some people who have become who are MBA graduates, or to others MBA applicants. So make sure that you seek out people who have a good idea about what the process is like and what is being asked for. So if you seek out that kind of feedback, then they'll tell you, okay, this point looks impressive, make sure you highlight it, this point does not really add value to you. So based on that feedback, then you can iterate over your tell me about yourself answer and then come to a better answer as such. But to do that, you need to start somewhere, and that somewhere would be basically writing down a big version and then writing a big version of your master CV. Then on that basis, writing a lengthy tell me about yourself, and from that lengthy tell me about yourself, iterating to a crisp, clean tell me about yourself, which is around a 150 word mark. Think of it in this way, nobody is going to let you ramble on for like 200, 300 words. Nobody has the patience to just continue to hear somebody for that long. So assume that you would be probably cut off even before you reach the 150th word mark. So you need to make sure that you are able to crisply put forward whatever you have to say about yourself. So this is a long process, but it is important that you go through that. When you're writing, basically as you distill it down further and further into like a crisper version, then you'll come to like a 150 word tell me about yourself, where each sentence will have some basic proper nouns and what I call hooks. So these are starting points of questions. So if you say that I come from a small town in Maharashtra, then one of the hooks will be basically your town's name. Another hook would be Maharashtra, and from that the conversation can go in a different direction based on that input. So all of these are hooks. So you should be very careful about what hook you place. So if I say that I am from X place in Maharashtra, I should be very sure that I can answer all questions about Maharashtra. I should know all the chief ministers, previous chief ministers, current chief minister of Maharashtra. I should know the geography of Maharashtra, all the districts that are there in that particular state. I should know everything about the particular area that I come from. For example, I'll just tell you that in my actual IIMA interview, I mentioned that I was from Maharashtra, and the conversation kind of started from that point, and it ended up we ended up at one point of time where like they asked me which district I was from Maharashtra, and then they asked, okay, what is it famous for? So I said mangoes grow there. Then they asked me where do mangoes grow, closer to the coastline or further away from the coastline. So this was a direction of conversation I was not particularly comfortable with, because I have no idea where mangoes actually grow. I've never seen that. But because I had actually said I'm from Maharashtra, I should have prepared for all things that spring out from there. So always make sure that every proper noun that you put in your tell me about yourself will start like a branch of inquiry, and you should go down every single path that it leads to and think about it and prepare for that kind of path. You can't exhaustively do every single path, but you should at least cover the first order and second order things that immediately come out of from that particular term as such. So that's what a hook is. So place hooks that you are comfortable with. So for example, if I was very comfortable with technology, I'd make sure that I would say that okay, I did my graduation in computer engineering, and I'm extremely interested in technology and whatever is going on in the technology world. So that's a hook, and then they can ask me about what I'm following, what I'm reading upon, or a particular subtopic from this. By doing that, I'm also inviting them to ask me about my academic background. So make sure that it's something that you are really, really comfortable with answering. You don't have to rehash your entire resume. Though I asked you to write down this resume kind of master CV kind of thing, you don't have to go through each point on your resume saying that, okay, I went to this school, then I went to this college, I scored this much in college, then I went to this workplace, I did this job. Though those things are important for you to mention, you should not rehash your resume. They have your transcripts in front of them. They know exactly how you have done, where you have gone for schooling, where you have gone for your graduation. They have all that information with them. It's important to mention some important things like, okay, what was your graduation, where you work, where you are currently working, because that kind of forms the bulk of your this. But it's important to connect that with who you are as a person. So it's important to say that I was extremely as a student, I was fascinated by coding, which is why I took up computer engineering in college. After graduation, I realized that my strength lay in number crunching and quantitative subjects, which is why I took up a role in a bank. So you have to connect it with who you are as a person. It's not a simple rehashing of your resume. You have to explain or like kind of give context to your resume. You have to explain who you are as a person using these facts. Do not get too personal, do not get too much into what you like doing or your hobbies or who you are as a person. This is still a kind of a professional business kind of this, though less so than a work interview. Still, by appearing, sharing too much personal information, you might actually leave a negative impression. So kind of be professional in your interaction. Also, one of the mistakes that I often read in like when I see sample tell me about yourself answers, I see a lot of information is given about family members. So I come from this background, my family does this business, I have 2 brothers who are also doing this business. Your tell me about yourself is not about your family. So do not give undue amount of information about your family, your employer, because it does not add value to you. Even if you work for a very big company, unless you are doing well in it, it doesn't really matter. Similarly, so you should give context. Okay, I'm working in this company, or I'm from this region or something like that. But the tell me about yourself should be about you. So you're making a larger point using that as context. The tell me about yourself should not be about other people. We make sure that every sentence essentially gives information about you, not about other people as such. So that's the guidelines for writing the tell me about yourself. The most important thing that I often tell people is that you should focus on what the interviewer is trying to hear. So I wouldn't say sell yourself to the interviewer, but essentially you have to tailor your message to the audience and what does the interviewer want to hear. So these guys are generally professors, IIM professors, and when they're taking your interview, they are IIM professors or XLRI professors or FMS professors. All of these guys, when they take your interview, they want to know whether you're a sincere student, whether you're a hardworking student, that after joining the program, you will come every single day to class, you will prepare and come, you will participate in the class, you will give your 100%, you will submit your assignments on time, and you will be essentially a good student and you will get placed in time. All of these are their concerns when they are trying to evaluate you. So that's what they're looking for in a student. So your tell me about yourself should subtly promote this idea that you'll be a good student, you will do all the work that is assigned to you, you're hardworking, you're reliable, you're mature, you would participate in the class discussion in a positive way. So this is what you should essentially try to portray when you're describing yourself to the interviewer. So this is what you should focus on. You should come across as somebody who will contribute to the school in a positive way, who will make his job of teaching easier. So that is what you should focus on, that this is what the other guy is looking for, and I should kind of promote that kind of understanding of me. Always remember that the interviewer wants to select you. No interviewer goes in thinking that I will try to break the candidate. Most guys are, most IIM profs, most FMS profs, XLRI profs are good people. They are smart people, they are intelligent people, they are mature people. They are not there to take your case, they are not there to essentially break your confidence. They are there to see if you are, if you have it in you to actually complete the program successfully. So they are trying to, most interviewers go in with the mindset that they want to take you in. You should just give them a good enough reason to take you in and give no reason not to take you in. So if you think of it in this way, that he is trying, the person sitting in front of me is trying to select me, and I have to just make sure that I do not displease them or put them off by giving any kind of a wrong signal, and I should give them one good reason for them to select me. If that is all that I focus on, then I will do well in the interview. Always make sure that you are subtly promoting certain kind of traits. So as I said, you should, if you are strong in academics, if you did well in undergrad, if you did well consistently throughout your academic career, that is perfect, because consistently doing well is the best sign that you would do well in your actual MBA program. That's why they give so much weightage to your 10th and 12th, because if you think of it, how does your ability to do well in 10th translate into you being a good manager as such? But they are basically looking for somebody who would consistently put in the work, who wouldn't flake out, who wouldn't dodge responsibility. So basically they want somebody who is a mature, reliable, responsible person. So if you did well throughout your academic career, excellent. Make sure you do say that. If you were in the top 3 of your school, college and undergrad, 10th, 12th and undergrad, make sure you mention that, because it's a very positive marker for your selection. Also, even if you did not do spectacularly well in your undergraduation, if you did consistently well, especially in the subjects that you liked, say that, then mention those particular areas that you worked hard where you had interests. Even that is fine, because that shows that you have the ability to put in consistent effort, at least in some areas. So it's very important to kind of show a level of maturity and consistency and effort. Second thing is that you have to show that you're hardworking and reliable. So anytime when, if you have any kind of gaps in your resume, that, for example, that if you haven't continuously worked at a place, so suppose you have a lot of short work tenures, like 10 months in one company, 10 months in another company, that's kind of a red flag. So you have to then try to emphasize that you are hardworking and reliable in some other aspect. It's very important that they believe that you have it in you, the tenacity in you to complete the 2 years program. MBA programs generally tend to demand a lot from their students. You have to do with less than 6 hours of 5 hours of sleep on for like over a year. So it should be very evident that at least at some point in time you worked very hard and you achieved something. So if there is something in your resume that says that, may put it in your tell me about yourself. If your academic record says that, excellent. That nothing better than that. Another thing that they are trying to see is somebody who is mature and responsible and who can work in large groups. So somebody who is able to keep their calm, who doesn't get frazzled, who does not get stressed, would be a positive contributor to the group discussion. Somebody who does not blame other people for their own what happened, circumstances in their life. So do not ever in your tell me about yourself put anything negative about anybody, not your employer, not your school, especially not about any professors in your college, in your undergrad college, in your school. Nothing ever, nothing negative about any teachers ever. Essentially do not shift blame on anybody. If you did poorly in any this, during the interview, accept blame. That shows maturity and that shows your ability to handle when things go wrong, you are able to handle and contain that situation. That will actually add to it. So in your tell me about yourself, do not put anything negative about anyone. That shows immaturity. Instead, if you can say how you overcame things, overcame negative effects, how you accepted certain weaknesses and overcame that, that would be better. Something that they are looking for is somebody who is genuinely interested in management education. So do not look at your MBA as your gateway to a better paying job. Do not mention that. Do not say that you are here to, you are looking for a job switch, you are looking to get away from technology. Essentially do not try to put this as if the MBA program is like a recruitment agency that you are going into. Students who just look at MBA programs as something that they have to do to get into a good job, they do not generally tend to put in the effort during the MBA program, because your summer placements happen before your grades are out. So those kind of students generally tend to make bad students for the professors. So it's generally a red flag for the professor if you're too interested in just the placement process and not interested in the education part of it, because from his perspective you would not make a good student. So it's very important that you do not put in anything which gives the signs that you're not there to study. You should always put in that you are a consistent hard worker, extremely interested in, focused on academics, extremely intent on doing well in academics. If you had not done well, spectacularly well throughout, make sure that now when you're connecting the dots, say that now you're looking for a holistic management education. So you need not actually say that. You don't have to answer by MBA and tell me about yourself. Just don't put a negative, any kind of a negative statement about education in this. Do not put any kind of statement about why you're doing this in your tell me about yourself. Do not put any statement about why MBA in tell me about yourself, unless it is absolutely relevant for your this. And if you're putting a statement about like why MBA in tell me about yourself, make sure the answer to the question why MBA is education. That's what the interviewer wants to hear, that you're there to learn. They don't want to hear that you are there for a job switch or a better job. Another thing that they are looking for is somebody who has a diverse set of interests and tenacity to pursue interests. So when I say, generally I would say that do not put your one-off hobbies in tell me about yourself, because they don't define you as a person. If you have been, say, playing violin since you were like 7 and you have played it consistently for 10 years or so, then that is a part of who you are. Then you can say that I'm interested in playing violin, and that's because it's genuinely a part of who you are. So whenever you put in an interest in tell me about yourself, it should be a genuine interest that has stayed with you for a long period of time. Because if it's a one-off interest where you did well, say suppose in basketball in inter-college, once in inter-college, now that's not really an enduring interest, and it should not be part of your tell me about yourself. But suppose you were part of basketball team when you were in school, then you were in part of the basketball team during your college years, and you represented your college in basketball, and you continue to watch basketball today, or you played for the state level or national level, and you continue to watch that game today, then it has been part of you for so long that it is an enduring interest. Now, why is this important? This shows having enduring interest shows that you have the tenacity in you to see things through. It's that you aren't the person to start and stop things. So having that kind of tenacity means that often translates into ability to do tougher things over at other things also. Then it also means that you won't easily give up on other things. So that's a positive for you. So whenever you have an interest, if you're mentioning it in tell me about yourself, make sure that it's an enduring interest. If that is the case, then you can put it in tell me about yourself. It will add value. So the basic construction that people follow is that you start with your name and where you're from. 2 lines about your education and work history. Then you talk about what your job you are doing currently, or if you're in last year of in college, then you speak about that. If you have had any exceptional achievements, then do put that in, because then it is a important. If it's an important part of who you are. If it's a one-off achievement that does not anyway connect to who you are as a person, then it does not make sense to put it there. But if it is a kind of that you were always interested in technology, then you went into computer engineering, then you have been coding on like a online platform, and recently you won a coding competition, then there is a continuity to what it is, that it's like going from it shows an enduring interest in something, then put it in. If it is very deeply connected to who you are as a person, then put that achievement in. Also make sure that that achievement is exceptional. It should not be that you stood 3rd in your department, then don't put it in your tell me about yourself. It can go on your like resume, but it should not be there in tell me about yourself. The last parts are generally hobbies and interests. So what you like to do in your free time. So this is just a basic construction. You need not follow this template. This can serve you as a starting point. You can talk about your what you're doing currently is very, very important to you, close to you, and defines who you as a person. You might talk more about it than your academic or previous work history. But if your academic career has been stellar, you can basically expand there. What kind of structure you follow depends on what content you have, and that is very, very individual. So I would not say that everybody has to follow this particular template. I'm just given this so that you have a starting point. After that, you have to customize it based on what your personal profile is. If your personal profile is extremely skewed towards extracurricular activities, you can follow a completely different order of things. So this is not something that you have to basically stick to. This is something just to get you started on. I just now what I basically want to do is I want to discuss some example. Tell me about yourselves. Then say how to identify, how to correct them, what you can do to make them better, and what the hooks are in each of them, and how you should prepare. Once you have made your tell me about yourself, what hooks have you placed in those cases, and how you should prepare for all of those. So consider the following, tell me about yourself. This is somebody that from one of our students. So I have removed most of the specifics. I've kept only some specifics there. So this is that I am XYZ. I am from PQR, a small town in Tamil Nadu. I did my schooling in ABC school. After completing my schooling, I pursued mechanical engineering from National Engineering College. I was deeply interested in quizzing and got numerous opportunities to represent my school and college in various quiz competitions. After graduating, I got an opportunity to work with MNO, a Fortune 500 company in the pharmaceutical sector. I have been working with MNO for the past 18 months in the sales department. I like playing chess as a hobby. I am a great fan of the playing styles of Magnus Carlsen and Mikhail Tal. Again, if you think of it, this is a very reasonably balanced tell me about yourself. It is not too long. It hits all the points. And it does not linger, it does not contain any negative element, no negative statement, so that's a pretty good start. Now if you let's think of what sentences add value to the person. I am XYZ, that I am from here. Those are kind of important for you to introduce yourself. The fact that he did schooling from this school does not add any value unless you taught the school or it is in some way related to some other point you are going to make. This sentence is not adding to what he has to say about himself. It should not be part of tell me about yourself. So you can just start that, you can just say that he pursued his mechanical engineering from National Engineering College. This is a very good line because it tells me about who he is as a person. It tells me an enduring interest of his, something that he did through school and college, and he won many quiz competitions. So this is an excellent line. It should be a part of tell me about yourself, and it's an excellent hook as such. So this is a very good line, and most lines should be like this, where they should give a picture of who you are as a person. After graduating, I got an opportunity to work with MNO, a Fortune 500 company in pharma sector. I've been working for the 18 months in sales department. So essentially, if you think of this part is just giving information without adding value. So he has to rewrite this first part so that he can add value to his impression as such. And this is the part where he's talking about his hobbies. Now let us think of what kind of values we have to kind of subtly imply. Now the emphasis is on subtly. You shouldn't directly say that I am a very hardworking person. You shouldn't directly say all of these things. You should imply them by giving real life examples. So if you say that I have consistently done well in my academic career, or academics is extremely important to me and I made sure that I was in the top 3 in school and college, then it subtly gives the signal that you take academics seriously rather than you directly saying out that I take academics very seriously, because that directly saying that does not add value. That is a negative, would be a negative point as such. So you have to subtly give that kind of impression that you're consistently good in school, or you're mature and reliable, you're hardworking, responsible, you'd be a good student, you do all the work, you are there to learn, and you won't make any kind of negative statement about anybody. You would work well in groups. So what I would suggest in this kind of case, if he, for example, he has mentioned that he has done his mechanical engineering. So instead of just saying I have done my mechanical engineering, if you add some context to it, that I was always interested in machines and that interest led me to pursue mechanical engineering from National Engineering College. I was deeply interested in quizzing. This is a perfect line because it tells you why he has done a few things, and it tells you that what his interest was. Now the work, this is again a negative point because he has just given information without giving context as to why he has done things. So instead of that, if you rewrite it as after my engineering background, I felt I needed more work. I needed to work, improve on my interpersonal skills. Therefore, as a challenge, I took up a job in the sales department of MNO, a Fortune 500 company, which works in the pharmaceutical sector. It adds kind of a context to who you are as a person, that you took up a challenge and you did well. Or you tried to challenge yourself with this kind of a job. So you have to kind of explain why you have done things rather than just state you have done things. So this needs more context as such. The last thing that the person has mentioned, that I like playing chess as a hobby. I'm a great fan of playing styles. Again, just stating that fact does not add value. Instead, if you have said that I like playing chess as a hobby and have been playing for several years, I participated in many tournaments. I particularly like the playing styles of Mikhail Tal because I like the creativity in his play. So if that adds value, that tells me who you are as a person, that tells me, that kind of draws my attention in, my curiosity, increases my curiosity. So you have to add kind of statements which give color to the life events as such. You can't have a simple statement of life events. You have to add context and your color to the why you did things, why you chose it. You need not put it for everything because you might not have had a very good reason to do things. For example, at times you might have chosen a particular this in engineering because it was the top rated slot or the best one available for you. So you need not say that that was the reason why you chose it. Then you can either say that, okay, I was always interested in XYZ, that's why I chose it. Or you can say that because of my interest in mechanical engineering, I did these extra co-curricular activities in mechanical engineering. So how you put it depends on you, depends on your profile. But my main point is that you should add why you do things also. You have to explain who you are as a person, give some kind of context to who you are as a person to the life events. Because this simple placement statement of facts does not add a whole lot of value to you. So this is how you should improve your tell me about yourself. Now I'll come to the tree diagram part of it. If you see that this person has placed some hooks. So now that once you read this kind of tell me about yourself, you have to basically, once you write down your tell me about yourself, you have to draw a tree diagram out of it. So for XYZ, what is the tree diagram? First, it starts with his name itself. I was asked what is the meaning of my name in one of the personal interviews. So you might not think this is a hook that you place, but it starts, they can ask you about anything. So the name, you should put that also in your tree diagram. The second thing that he has mentioned is he is from PQR and he is from Tamil Nadu. He did his this in ABC school. So that's another hook he has put. Then the another hook is mechanical engineering and National Engineering College, NECs. Quizzing is a big hook. Obviously he has put quizzing as a hook, and this seems like a conscious hook. After graduating he got MNO as a hook as well as pharma as a hook. Sales is a hook, chess is a hook, and Magnus and this is. So you have sales, you have chess, and you have Talson and Tal as hooks. So you start off by making what are all the proper nouns that you have placed in your, what essentially are the things that you can possibly ask about. So proper noun is a good starting point. Make a list of all of those things. Now from each of these you can be asked n number of questions. So first thing will be, what is the meaning of your name? Then you can be asked, like if you come from PQR, you can be asked what are the industries in PQR? What are all the businesses in PQR? Where is this situated? What is it famous for? What is this? What does it produce? What are its agricultural imports or agricultural exports? What does it export? What kind of economy does it have? So all of these are important to this. What are the industries? What is the agricultural? What agricultural products does it produce? You can also be asked about its politics. Same thing about the state as well. Make sure that you have a good idea about the politics of your state, who not just the current politics but historical politics. So when was your state formed, who were its founding chief ministers, who have been the chief ministers over the years, what is the geography of your state, how many districts are there, what is the capital, all the basic things mostly you would find even on Wikipedia. So make sure that you go through all of this consciously and you note it down. You have a very good research idea about all of these topics. So essentially what I say is that once you identify all of these hooks, write a like say a essay on each of these. So you start off by how you would write a Wikipedia entry, and you write things that okay, this is the history, this is the culture, these are the agricultural products, this is the climate, this is what it has been in the news for lately. Once you have identified, okay, this Tamil Nadu was in the news for the Kalari, the Jallikattu, then this is what is your view on it. So all of this is how you prepare for that particular this. If you think you have to know who is the current chief minister, who was the ex-chief minister, what is the political scenario now, if it is going to go into election, what are the different parties that are contesting. Everything comes in once you say the word, your name of your state, everything is game. So you have to make sure that you think of it and go down the chain of like, this is, I say a tree diagram because each of this is like a route. There's one route, then there's a sub-route, and then there's sub-routes. So this, it kind of spreads like roots inside this. So you have to keep going, digging deeper and deeper until you find out every single detail that could possibly ask. Now you can't exhaustively think of all the elements in this tree, but if you start by writing this, then you can think of what all questions that can be asked. Once you start writing like a Wikipedia entry on all of these things, then you will know what can be asked and what questions you should prepare for. Now that person said that he went to ABC school. Again, adds no value, and if you are asked randomly about this, it won't be something that you can answer also. Mechanical engineering, now your graduation field is going to be a vast, you have to mention it. You can't, even if you didn't do well in it, even if you are not confident of answering questions from that, you kind of have to mention it during your tell me about yourself. So there is no escaping preparing your graduation subjects. So make sure that you prepare well for most of the important subjects in your graduation topic. Again, know the history of your college, know when it was founded, know some important points of it. If it was in the news lately, make sure that you know why it was in the news. Again, this the person mentioned quizzing is his interest. So it's important that if they ask about, they won't ask you trivia questions if you mention quizzing, but they can ask you about which are the important quizzing festivals in India, which are the important quizzing events. All of this is important for you to know. Again, the sector of your company itself, you should have information about all of these things. Then in your role as such, again you have to continuously think about how this particular term can go down and how deep you can go down and what kind of questions or branches that can emerge from this particular field. So for example, when he mentioned Carlsen and Thal, he has to have a very good idea about the playing styles of Carlsen and Thal. He has to know what games they played, like Carlsen played recently. He has to know some idea about how many games Thal won, against whom he won, the highlights of his career. So all of that is important, because once you place the hook, you are inviting n questions from that particular topic. Then you are obligated to make sure that you write down all of these questions and explore that down this and prepare for it in advance. If you are not ready to answer a topic from a particular question, do not put it in or tell me about yourself. It's as simple as that. So this is the tree diagram for this particular person. Let's take a look at another person. This is a bit longer, so this is slightly longer than I would recommend, but it's a good starting point. From this you can distill it down to crisper tell me about yourself. So let's hear this. I am ABC. I am a BTech graduate in Electronics and Communication Engineering from FGH Institute of Technology. Currently, I am working as a logistics manager with MNO, which is an e-commerce startup based in Hyderabad. With a keen interest in academics, I have always been in the top 3 throughout my academic career. While I was in college, I got an opportunity to work as a supervisor with Spoken Tutorial Resource Center, where I led a team of 20 and organized several tutorial workshops on open source software across various departments. My role at MNO requires me to manage a delivery workforce of 100 people and ensure error-free on-time delivery. Working at a startup has been a unique experience in terms of providing me a chance to innovate and to be creative. I have been an active learner and I have the ability to learn from situations and environment that I become a part of. In the free time, I like to play badminton and read books. Okay, now let's first identify what is working for him and what is not working for him. This is a decent start. He has completely ditched where he is from. Now that can be, if you're not prepared for your state and your city and all, you can decide to leave it out. That's personal choice, but if you have prepared, you can mention that. There is a slight ordering issue where the person talks about his current role, then his acads, and then back to his role. So there is a ordering issue because then you have to repeat twice that you are okay now doing this. It would be better if he actually talked about his acads before he got into his work, or spoke entirely about his work and then went back to his acads. If you think of it, this if you know that the professor really wants to hear that you're good at academics, this particular sentence is a killer line. This will actually do a lot to help your case. So I would have said that you should have put it up immediately after this, that you have been a consistent, and if you're trying to give the signal consistency, use the word consistent. Say that you've consistently been the top 3 throughout your academic career. That subtly very directly tells that you are a kind of a reliable student. So always make sure that if you have something like that, you put it up top. Also because that would make more sense to the flow of the paragraph. You start from your engineering, you say that you have always done well, and you talk about your co-curricular activities, then you go to your work experience and then end with that. So I would say that he should highlight this more. Again, this one, the co-curricular activity does not really add value. The fact that he led a team of 20 does add value because it means that you can work with a large group of people, you have some managerial abilities, but you have to frame it in such a way that what were the results you achieved. So if you achieved a lot of positive results, that adds more value than the fact that you just led a team of 20. So for example, if you helped say X number of students learn important skills, that's a good way of putting things rather than saying that I led a team of 20 to conduct this course. Because ultimately it's important to say what you achieved rather than what you did. So you have to rewrite, I would suggest that he would rewrite this in a more result oriented way. This part, again if he rewrites it saying that it's a very big thing that he is managing 100 people, but if you should rewrite this in such a way that you kind of show that you are able to work within a large team and make sure that things work smoothly. That's a very big skill to have as such. So writing things like, if you rewrote that as I work with a large team of over 100 co-workers to ensure I manage a team of 100 co-workers to ensure error-free 99% error-free delivery, and we are on time X% of the time. That shows the results you have achieved. You need not always put that kind of thing in your tell me about yourself. You need not put specific statistics. But if you're putting something like this, make sure you emphasize the results you're achieving rather than just a blank statement of facts. So you should say that as a person, I like to engage in a wide variety of people. I have led a team of 20 in my college, and where I achieved these results. At my workplace, I lead a team of 100 people, and on a daily basis, we achieve these results. So that puts more perspective on who you are as a person. You're a person who is who has the ability to manage people. Again, it's important to give that message without directly saying that I have the ability to manage 100 people. What you should say is that on a day-to-day basis, I work with 100 I manage a workforce of 100 to deliver these results. So that's a subtle way of putting that you can manage a large workforce, that you can make sure that people work together. You should imply the things that I mentioned in earlier rather than directly state them. Again, these two lines are kind of negative, because the point is that you should imply that you are an active learner without explicitly saying so. Saying that I'm hardworking, saying that I'm sincere actually does not work in your favor. You have to imply that you are sincere by giving a real life example. So instead of saying that I'm an active learner, what you should say is that by working at a startup, I was exposed to taking a lot of decisions in a quick time, and the nature of the work required me to learn quickly and to adapt to the changing situations. That kind of that gives the same signal that you have the ability to learn quickly without saying that I am an active learner. Saying I am an active learner is actually a bad way of putting things. Again, the last line, when that person just mentions that he likes to play badminton and read books, does not really add value. You have to say what books you like to read, because almost every second person is going to say I like to read books. Then you have to say, okay, I like to read non-fiction like Indian history or Indian political history, or I like to read non-fiction. I am really into detective fiction, or I like to read XYZ type of books. That gives a good opening line. It rouses the interest of the interviewer as such. So that is how you should write things. Now again, similarly, let's draw a tree diagram for this guy. So for this guy, he is, again we start for ABC, his name is one of the hooks, so is his institute, then EC is a hook, that is electrical engineering is a hook, then his institute I've already mentioned, logistics is a hook, the name of his company is a hook, e-commerce startup he has put. So he has to think about e-commerce as this. He should have an opinion on Flipkart sale. He should have a very in-depth knowledge about e-commerce in India. He has also put the fact that he is working at a startup, so he should have a good idea about the startup scene in Hyderabad, because he was working in a startup in Hyderabad. He has keen interest in academics. Again, he has mentioned something specific about open source software and tutorial workshops. So he should have a good handle on open source software and all questions that can come from that particular topic. Another hook that is the delivery this, as well as he has to have a good as I said, logistics. So all the delivery there's if you're a mech engineer or this, there's a good chance that the person interviewing you can also be a mech engineer. So in that case, they can ask you a lot of specifics. If you are working in marketing, it can happen that the person who is interviewing you teaches marketing. So you have to have a very good handle on all the terms that are involved or the work that you do in that particular field. If you say logistics, if you say that you are handling logistics and delivery, and the person who is interviewing you is an operations manager, then you have to have some operations fundamental as well, because otherwise then you shouldn't, there is no point in you saying that you work in a logistics part of it if you have no idea of operations as such. So make sure that you think of your job even from an academic point of view, that if you are in sales, sales comes under marketing, so you have some idea about some marketing ideas such as the product matrix, the 4 P's of marketing. All of this it might not be reasonably expected of a MBA applicant, because these are things that you learn during an MBA program, but if you know them because of your exposure to your particular job, then make sure that you revise them, because if you already know that and you are good at something, you already have an exposure to some part, real life exposure, industrial exposure to some part of an MBA, that will actually add value. So for this person, that last hook is badminton and books. Books is not really a good hook, because it's not something that you can control. The field is too wide apart. The reason why I also say that define a close, smaller hook is then, suppose if you put the hook as I like reading books, especially non-fiction books on Indian political history, then the questions that they can possibly ask is about Indian political history. Now, if you put books in general and they go down literature and ask you about literature, English literature, there's a very good chance that you can then you can be completely stumped by it. So by narrowly defining your interest, rather than narrowly defining your interest, if you accurately define your interest and say that okay, this is what I'm interested in, then it makes not only would it prompt the interviewer to ask you about it, but it also prevents the interview from going completely off track. So that is how you draw the tree diagram. Then you write everything that you can think of, what questions that can come from each of these things. So this is how you should consciously go through all of your tell me about yourselves. There is a last one, last example I will take about tell me about yourself. Consider this tell me about yourself. This is much larger than what your tell me about yourself should be, because there is no way that you can say all of this before the interviewer cuts you short. Nobody is going to listen to this entire paragraph. Nobody has the time. So just think of it this as the initial draft that you have to then condense into a crisp small paragraph of tell me about yourself. So this is, hi, my name is ABC. I was born and brought up in Rajasthan. My father is a supervisor and mother is a homemaker. I have a brother and a sister. I have done my schooling in Hindi medium. Now I will say that these lines may add no value. These add absolutely no value to these do not help your candidature as an MBA candidate for a particular B school, right? So why would you put that? Always focus on who you are as a person. Your tell me about yourself should be about you, not your family, not your brothers and sisters, not where you did early schooling, etc. Again, this line should add value, but it does not, because it does not say this on a from the perspective of that person. So if your parents realize the importance of education, instead of saying that, if you said that I was born and brought up in Rajasthan, my parents always emphasize education and this has always been a very important thing for my family. For example, in this case, when I spoke to the student, he said that he was the first graduate from his family. Now that makes a lot more sense to put than this sentence, because when you say that your family places a lot of emphasis on your education and that you are the first graduate from your family, you are very subtly implying that you take education very seriously, that you will work hard because this is important to you, and that's a very good signal to give. So if instead of writing all of this, if that person had written, I was born and brought up in Rajasthan, my parents always emphasized education, and I seriously pursued because of the emphasis they placed on my education, I became the first graduate from my family. If he put that line in his tell me about yourself, it would add so much more value to who he is, to his profile, than these statements do, because it does not translate into seriousness, his parents' seriousness about education does not translate into his seriousness about education. The fact that he is the first graduate translates into an achievement for him. So make sure that you are emphasizing what you are doing, who you are as a person, and what is important to you. So I secured, the next part is I secured an admit into MNO. In college, initial days were difficult as I had to write down the answers in English. This was a difficult phase of my life, but I studied hard and overcame it. My CGPA kept on increasing after first year, and I managed to get GP Birla scholarship in 4 semesters during my undergrad. Again, this is a very good point, but it has been so poorly written. Firstly, do not shift blame onto others. Do not, though he has not done that over here, do not talk about hardships or directly try to manipulate for this. What you should instead write is that after, like, I secured an admission into MNO, as I transitioned from Hindi medium to English medium, I initially struggled, but eventually I overcame it, and my academic record would show that my CGPA constantly increased after the first year, and eventually I won the GP Birla scholarship. This shows that you're hardworking, you're tenacious, you take academics seriously. These are excellent points to highlight and tell me about yourself. If that is the case, you should always say that. If your overall GPA is extremely bad, but you did well in your last year, you can turn that around by saying that I was initially, after I went into college, I did not take education seriously, but I realized the importance of education, and I put in a lot of effort in my last year, and I got a 8-point GPA in my last year. So that kind of turns it around. It gives the signal that you are very focused on studies, and it's a good signal to give. This can be rewritten in such a better way to give the signal that the person is extremely interested in education. So after that, that person writes, besides that, I joined Team Stegen, which designs and fabricates a Formula style vehicle that participates in various championships over the globe. During the session FSI 2015, I served the team as assistant manager. The team managed to finish off the 7th spot out of 84 participating teams. Again, this is a arbitrary point because it does not add value to the overall pitch as such, because this seems like an one-off interest. In your tell me about yourself, you should only put things that you have done consistently over years, something that is an enduring interest, something you have participated in for years. So when I talked to this person, what he said that he was interested, he went into mechanical engineering, and in mechanical engineering he was extremely interested in the automobile engineering part of it. So because of this interest, he took part in the competition for fabrication of vehicles, and he did well there. So there you can connect that this was a enduring interest of yours in automobile engineering, and that is why you participated in this, and that is how this came about. That would add value, that you pursue interest, that you are hardworking, and that you go down and like logically see things through. After that, the person writes, along with acads and co-curricular activities, I co-founded a merchandise brands-based startup wherein we were involved in apparels business, primarily catering to engineering colleges. The idea was to tap the business space of customized t-shirts and hoodies for various college fairs and gaming enthusiasts. We managed to spread the venture on a national level. Later in the 4th year of engineering, I quit the startup, keeping the long-term goal in priority. Now, this is where he kind of loses the plot. It's very good that he started a startup in college itself, but to abruptly quit it, this is a huge negative point, because it indicates that you do not actually see things through. That never put in something which is essentially a demerit point for you, that you quit things, that you gave up on things. This should not be part of your tell me about yourself. If instead he gave the reason for, like for example, I spoke to the person and asked why did he leave. So then he explained that the startup was successful, but to scale the startup I would require to drop out of college, and that I was not ready to do because I was extremely focused on getting a degree and becoming the first graduate from my family. So if you put that into perspective, it makes much more sense. You may not add this, but you should definitely not put that I quit the startup and put a negative statement like this. So do not put any kind of negative statements that are directly show that either you do not see things through or that you quit on things. Try to put those in a positive way, in a positive spin. So the positive spin would be that you wanted to focus on your education, or you wanted to do something else that was more important to you. Again, the last lines do not exactly add value to the this, and they should be fleshed out to add color to who the person is. That from everything else, he is a person who has worked hard, who has consistently worked hard. Then the last part should also indicate that. So these are generally the guidelines you should follow while writing your tell me about yourself. For this particular person, as I said, this person has to think of his name. So this is ABC, has to think of his name. He has mentioned Rajasthan, so he has to have a very good this on Rajasthan, from culture to politics to tourism, everything in Rajasthan. Everything is game once he puts that particular term there. Since he put the word quota, you should have this about opinion about the coaching in quota, the JEE coaching in quota, all of that should be there. Then he should have a idea about the GP Birla scholarship, since he mentioned it. He should know how many students got it in his year. He was like, so you should know that, okay, I was 1 out of 20 students. Again, because he mentioned about automobile fabrication, he should have a good idea about automobile fabrication. Any interest of yours, if you are inviting the interest of the interviewer, you should be very, very confident that you can answer any question on it. Other than that, he has mentioned that he has done a startup, so he should have a very good idea of startups. Again, this might seem arbit, but he should have a good idea about the startups in Rajasthan, because it might seem unconnected to you now, but those two ideas might connect to the interviewer, so he might ask you about that. If you are very, very genuinely interested in the startup ecosystem, then you would even keep tabs about what is going on in your home state as such. If it is not a real interest, then you would not do that. So it gives an idea to the interviewer whether you are just making things up or you are genuinely interested in something. After that, he has mentioned about his merchandising, so he should have a good idea about merchandising businesses, what works, what are the margins, what are the specifics of these business, what are the players in it, how exactly this business works. He should have everything, he should have a good idea about it. After that, he has mentioned his roles in his firm, etc. So whatever is your tell me about yourself, make sure that you write a similar diagram and you make a tree like this and you go completely into detail about every single word that there is. Once you get into this process of making this tree diagram, it will become clearer to you what can be asked. Once you have a clear idea about what can be asked, then you can prepare for each of those things. So this is how you, not only should you write your tell me about yourself, you should think of what all flows out of the tell me about yourself. Now the points that you should remember while answering this question is that you stick to the script. So at times what happens is that you give your tell me about yourself and the interviewing panel is silent. So then many students continue to ramble on, adding random sentences from here or there. So you shouldn't have this pressure that, okay, you know what, the interviewers are still silent, so I should keep adding sentences. Do not ramble on, say your piece and just be quiet. You might think that this might sound rehearsed, but rehearse it in such a way that you modulate your voice, you emphasize on things that are important to you. If this is personal and if you're talking about your interests, then it would not come across as mechanical and rehearsed. If these are your genuine interests, then that comes in through your voice. So if you are really interested in automobile engineering and you're really interested in that kind of thing, when you talk about it, it will come through in your voice. So have a script ready and practice it. If it is genuinely your interest, you won't sound rehearsed. Just make sure that it is a true reflection of who you are. Again, revise main subjects from undergrad. You do not have the option of skipping that in tell me about yourself. Irrespective of how comfortable you are about from this, just go through all the main topics of your particular undergrad. You need not consider, you have to basically consider it from an outsider's perspective. What would they know about your particular field? So if you are a mechanical engineer and the person who is interviewing is also a mechanical engineer, then he'll know everything. But there's a chance that he won't know that much, that he would not have had a graduation in that particular Then they would know only some parts of it, some parts that outsiders would know. So then they would know what is the internal combustion engine, and then they can ask you questions on that. So always make sure that you have a very good hold on topics that an outsider would know. You have a very good hold on topics that you did exceedingly well in. So if your academic record is good and you're not able to answer a single question from your academics, then it's a pretty big disaster. If your academic record is good, then you have to put in double effort to make sure that you're able to answer most questions from it. Otherwise, it looks as if you mugged up before the exam, wrote some answer and came, and you didn't really learn anything. Also, make sure that if you have done well in some particular subjects, you read up on them. For example, for me, I did my computer engineering and I had not done well in image processing. It wasn't because I wasn't good at it, it was just that the paper was tough that year or something like that. So they asked me questions on image processing, and I was able to answer the questions. They just kind of went through my transcript and picked on the topics where I scored lesser. So make sure that you go through your own transcript, see things that jump out to you. That, for example, if you did very well in a particular subject, then you should revise that. If you did very poorly in a particular subject in a year where you did well otherwise, then you should revise that. So that's something you should go through and see how your profile would look to the interviewer as such. So as I said, write down everything as much as possible from your every term in your tree diagram. So the tell me about yourself is your attempt to direct the interview. So if the person actually takes the hook and actually asks you about something that you have mentioned in your tell me about yourself, then you should not mess up. If he asks you about something completely random and you are not able to answer that, then that's fine. But you are not able to answer something that you mentioned, then it's not fine, because they would assume that you are able to answer something that you mentioned, that is your interest. So if you mention that I am like very interested in technology, but you have no idea of what is going on in technology, then that's a pretty bad sign. But if they came on to that topic from an unrelated topic and then you're not able to answer the question, that's fine. Again, as I said, the interviewer is looking to choose you. If he is investing the time to interview you, it's not to reject you. The reason why they are putting in so much effort to talk to you is because they want to see whether or not you're okay enough. So don't give the interviewer a reason to not like you. Do not lose your cool. Do not make negative statements about anybody. Essentially do not run down others. Do not say anything negative about others, because that essentially sticks to you. So don't give the panelist a reason to not choose you. So these are the only things that you should remember when you start off with your tell me about yourself. Stay positive, have confidence in yourself, and you should just focus on what you are good at and try to give the interviewer a reason to select you. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be putting in more videos about PI preparation. So please subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and we're trying to cover the different topics, questions that can be asked, what one should do and what one should not do. So we'll be making more videos on this topic. But ultimately, this depends a lot on you, on your personal profile. So the only way that you can actually do well in this particular is if you actually put in the effort to write down your tell me about yourself, go through those several iterations to come to a good answer to this question. So put in the effort today. Thank you for tuning in.